Can you share the like triple verification like process one more time?
Yeah. So here's an example, right? It basically, we have engineering leaders listening to this. TCP handshake. It's like, I'm about to send something, SYN. The server's like, okay, like I've acknowledged that you're about to send something, ACK. And then the client's like, okay, I've acknowledged that you have now acknowledged that that I'm about to send something, SYN ACK. And then I'm going to start sending the data. This three-way handshake just doesn't happen in people systems and engineering. And so you get a bunch of issues. There's like a bunch of integrity issues. And so another example of this is like, let's say that this might be something that's timely for a lot of companies. Let's say that you're right sizing your headcount planning because you're like, oh, like I don't know if we're going to have enough cash to scale at the rate that we wanted to before. Now all of a sudden you have to introduce, let's just scope it to engineering. Let's say you're the head of engineering. It's engineering, finance, and your people leader. And you all, like within your people leader, there's like the talent team that's working against a headcount planning sheet that they think is the actual headcount planning sheet, but you can't tell them that you're working on a new one because then all of a sudden they're going to freak out thinking about, well, are we doing layoffs? And so there's like information asymmetry within the system. You now have a situation where there are sub teams that are working off of incorrect information that is continually being disverified, and you are trying to come up with a new version of reality. It is really important that each round that you make, that you triply verify that all the teams around the circle understand, okay, this is a new headcount. Okay, this is a new criteria that we're using for the headcount planning process. Okay, we are like reducing this amount of headcount within sales in order to make this amount of headcount within engineering. Like you should triply verify between finance and the two cross-functional leaders every single time and make sure that people is driving that triple verification process. So like that's another example of a system where you should probably triply verify and make sure everybody's on the same page. Because I guarantee you they won't be. Because what's happening is that your VP of sales might have said yes and you document the decision somewhere, but then they're going off trying to like hit this giant quota during a period where you have a ton of headwinds in the market. And so then they forget. And now all of a sudden there's like a bunch of like miscommunication and issues that pop up in this process that's already really arduous and hard. And so it's better to triply verify every single step of the way until you get to a shared sense of reality again. And I think that people miss out on that because they view it as inefficient when really like you catch a ton of inefficiencies across the way. It's way more painful. It's way slower, but you end up getting to the end goal much faster. It's just hard to see it in the moment.
Very consistent to see team to team, company to company. People are worried about being over communicating, which in reality they're so far away from that, and that's emphasized all that reality of not even near enough to do communication. That's just that itself just needs to be reminded repeatedly to almost every team member. So, and that's a very good example of the triple verification. Like people are worried about spending too much time versus actually they're not doing enough.
Yeah, I mean, at least at Loom, what we found, and I'd give us like a C job, maybe a C minus. We found that, we continue to iterate on, day C or like these project management frameworks of like who's driving, who's accountable, like who's the approver, who's the contributor, who should be involved. I find that contributor and involved piece is where people feel like they're over communicating, where they just like they're involved in all these project work streams that they don't need to be, or it's like unclear who's actually driving it forward. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, we're over communicating. It's like, no, you're just like being given a bunch of information that you don't care about. And then you don't want to tell people you don't care about it because like then you'll hurt their feelings. And so like I also find that roles and responsibilities is like such a critical, it's the thing that for sure we still need to work on at Loom. Like I'm in like 2 project streams right now where like I'm probably gonna have to follow up and be like, hey, just a reminder, like these are the people that are driving it, because it's starting to feel like we're losing that like touch with reality. And so I agree, like over communication is super important, but also like what you're communicating and who, critically important as you scale up. And I think that like we have a Slack problem where people just get like messages all day and they're like, I'm so tired of like, why do I need to communicate more? Like, I just want to get my work done.
I'm like, my reaction, Vinay, to a lot of the stories, like, this is almost, you've been on the executive hero's journey where like you've gone to the underworld and have seen a different way of being, and that you've returned like a change. But it's like the engineering leader's odyssey almost, and that you're coming back and like telling us stories of like a whole different reality and world and way of operating. And so it's just really exciting to hear the impact that that's had on you, how you've applied it.